When I first heard that Warframe had introduced a battle pass, I felt disappointed. Warframe had always been a game you could fully enjoy without spending a dime, so the idea of a battle pass didn't sit right with me at first. Then I learned that it was 100% free, which was a novelty for me at the time. I mean, what other game have you played has a completely free battle pass? Like, I'm not talking about a free version and a paid version, which is the usual model. I mean, everything in the battle pass is obtainable for free for everyone. That being said, how does a completely free battle pass fit into Warframe's monetization model? And more importantly, how has it worked so well all these years? On February 27, 2019, Nightwave was added to Warframe. This essentially served as Warframe's response to requests for a battle pass. Nightwave is run by a mysterious host named Nora Knight. She acts akin to that of a radio host, giving you little snippets of dialogue when you visit the Nightwave segment in your orbiter.
Nora's got the goods for one lucky dreamer. Who's it gonna be?
Nightwave is sort of a type of syndicate, meaning you can level it up by earning standing. Warframe syndicates typically operate on a standing system. Earn enough standing and you rank up. Nightwave, however, breaks this formula. When you reach 10,000 standing with Nightwave, you are automatically ranked up to the next tier. There is no daily standing cap for Nightwave either. There's 30 tiers total, with the exception of Intermission 2, which only had 15 for some reason. You can, however, continue past tier 30. You'll be awarded credits for that volume for each tier you get after the max. You get standing by completing both daily and weekly missions, with the latter providing more overall standing. Keep in mind these are only to be completed once per week though. When you move to the next tier, your standing resets back to 0 and the process repeats. If you miss a rotation of missions, you can still complete them, though you'll need to complete this week's missions first. After this, you'll, quote, recover them, allowing you to complete them and gain the standing from there. The rewards vary across different seasons, called volumes. However, some of the recurring rewards include various arcanes, weapon slots, cosmetics, Umber Forma, Stance Forma, augment mods, Arcane Energize, and more. One of these in particular, Nightwave credits, are especially important. These credits can purchase items from a shop that rotates weekly, and you can only use credits obtained during that volume for the shop. Credits from previous volumes can only be sold for actual credits or kept as mementos. Now that you know how Nightwave works, let's look back at how it all began and how it's changed over the years. Initially, Nightwave didn't actually have volumes, instead it was divided into series. Series functioned very similarly to volumes, however they introduced new tasks that you could do alongside missions to gain standing. For example, in the first series, The Wolf of Saturn VI, you could capture new enemies known as Saturn VI fugitives. Capturing 3 of these would yield 50 standing each. Then, in the second series, The Emissary, there were multiple enemies that you could defeat for standing. A few include the Zealot Heralds, Zealot Proselytizer, and the Zealot Baptizer. You get 50 for the first 2 and 200 for the Baptizer. The third series, titled Glassmaker, was about a rogue Cephalon who went by the same name, due to its manner of killing where it crystallized its victims into glass. Players had to perform detective work through a new mechanic introduced with the update. New lines of work would be added with each episode for the series, and when you complete one, you would earn 7,000 standing. These series were actually live events in a way. Basically, certain aspects of the update, such as new ways to get standing for the series, or properties of enemies in the series, changed as cinematics, referred to as episodes, were released. For example, the Wolf of Saturn VI is also an enemy, which can spawn in most missions, similar to assassins such as the Stalker. Following episode 4, the wolf became sentient turned, similar to Corpus Amalgams, and gained a chance to drop a cosmetic for the operator. In between each series, there were mini-volumes known as intermissions. Intermissions served as a buffer between series, which gave DE time to work on new content. They didn't really have a larger story, and instead served as literal intermissions, while still allowing players to get rewards. Sadly, after Series 3, they stopped making them altogether. They were replaced by new seasons known as volumes. These volumes functioned identically to seasons in other games with battle passes. Volumes introduced new augment mods as well as containing largely the same rewards as series did. This is where well-loved mods such as Sentient Surge, which was in Volume 4, came from. The main difference being that they didn't have an involved story, omitting one of the most loved properties of Nightwave. Series had effectively been replaced by volumes indefinitely. Now, I never got a chance to play through any 3 of these series, although I wish I was able to. Series seemed like such a cool way to keep players interested in the game, whilst also weaving the story into everyday gameplay. A Reddit post made by user MozeTheNecromancer expresses their discontent with the removal of Nightwave series. They state that, quote, "They were amazing at fleshing out the Warframe universe and showing all the stories that are going on around us, often without Tenno ever being involved," unquote. Additionally, quote, "It's such a shame that one of the best ways for boosting player engagement/discussion, telling stories within the Warframe universe, and creating new objectives within missions was abandoned entirely," unquote. Nightwave series created a very innovative way for players, both new and old, to enjoy the game. Players during this time weren't just playing for the rewards, there was another layer of enjoyment knowing that you were part of a game-wide event that changed as the story progressed. Live events like this generate so much hype and engagement in the community, and can give even the most endgame of players a reason to be excited about the game again. Even for those who didn't know much about Warframe's lore, or cared for that matter, it was a great way for them to get involved with the community and the game. So this begs the question, why did DE stop making series after the Glassmaker? Well, a comment left by Reddit user NasusTNC provides some insight. They explain how, quote, "DE openly stated that full Nightwave was taking resources and manpower away from updates, probably made worse by Glassmaker starting to show a bit of feature creep. They had to prioritize with the limited resources they have." End quote. It turns out that making an entire story, multiple cinematics, live and frequent changes to the game, creating a new battle pass, etc., takes up a lot of time and resources. I mean, series were decently sized content updates, even if they weren't necessarily marketed as such, so it isn't that surprising in hindsight. Also, around the time Series 3 came out, they had already been working extremely hard on the new war, one of the biggest content updates by this point. Around the third series, they started to realize that this system was too draining to develop alongside something like the new war. Also, players began to become disillusioned with some of the features that were added into everyday missions with these series. Initially, it was novel and interesting, but as they became more dragged out, however, it got old very quickly. Remember that series lasted for multiple months on end. They weren't just mini-stories that were added into the game for a short period of time. For instance, Series 3 lasted from May 12th, 2020, all the way until January 24th, 2021. That's 8 months straight of the same event. All of these factors led to the unfortunate eventual removal of series. Volumes have been going on for a few years now, and we are currently on Nora's Volume 7, which began on September 3rd, 2024. Despite Nightwave's complicated history throughout the years and the mix of negative and positive feedback it received, it still is absolutely one of the best ideas Warframe ever had. It's a reward track accessible to both players new and old. It adds onto the bulk of Warframe's weekly objectives, keeping people busy and giving them something to do in the game. It also provides some great rewards, namely Umbra Forma and various useful resources from the weekly shop. For example, Nightwave provided a way to purchase Orkan reactors and catalysts without platinum, which are otherwise only obtainable for free from very rare events or circumstances. My personal experience with Nightwave has only been positive. The missions got me to explore parts of the game I'd never have been to otherwise. Like, I had no idea fucking Guitar Hero existed in Warframe. It's also always good fun to tell people who just started Warframe that their battle pass was free. The shock in their voice is representative of how monetized some other free-to-play games are. They juxtapose these awesome and cool rewards next to some that are complete and utter dog shit, and all you need to do to get those cool items is the swipe of a credit card. And not only that, you still need to grind to get those items after you purchased it. Overall, Warframe gave us a refreshing new take on the Battle Pass model, while keeping it accessible to tons of different people and keeping it worthwhile despite its complicated history. The free model works by keeping players engaged in the game, increasing the likelihood someone will support the game by buying platinum, cosmetics, or something else. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this synopsis of Nightwave's history. Sorry for the delay of this video. I got caught up working on another project before becoming burnt out and calling it quits. I may or may not revisit it, but you can see progress from my videos in my community tab. I post there regularly, so if you're wondering how the next video is doing, you can check it out there. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Later.